I'm Georgia Lieneman and welcome to Friday 5 at 5. A large cross-section of the Central Coast community, young and old alike, joined other communities all around the world in today's global climate change strike. The strike was inspired by Swedish schoolgirl Greta Thunberg and is designed to push policymakers for more action on climate change ahead of the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York next week. Thousands of people attended climate strikes across the Central Coast, many of which have been organised by school students including Gosford schoolboy Ethan Hill.
Our three demands for School Strike for Climate is no new coal or gas projects, including the Adani mine, 100% renewable energy and exports by 2030, and a just transition, which means for all the workers that work in the fossil fuel industry, they'll have climate jobs.
Not coal! Water not coal! Water not coal! Water not coal!
What do you think they're hoping to achieve with the rally?
Hopefully a lot of education and awareness, and people actually realising we need to start taking action now. We have to stop talking about it and stop saying we're going to do things and actually take the action that the children are really pressing us to do. Yeah.
The biggest and most important thing for me is to see the anxiety, because I'm also a school teacher, and to see the anxiety in the students, and they are in a position where they have nowhere they feel anyone's listening. And I think today is a fantastic means for them to be able to express how scared they are.
Stop Adani! Stop Adani! Stop Adani! Stop Adani! Stop Adani! Stop Adani! Stop Adani!
So what's brought you down here today?
Oh, to listen to the voice of the kids from the coast. It's a global movement, but it's a really important loud voice that we as the politicians and the leaders in this country need to hear. I can't believe our community voted the way they did at the federal election and this government is not listening to these kids. It's great to feel the energy rising, and as an ex-geography teacher, this is what I believe in, and the kids know my values and I'm really proud to be part of this community and give the voice to the students.
I feel like that's the difference between my generation and the old generations, is that they sort of are in an echo chamber of their views due to the current government, and I feel like it's important for them to step outside of that and view my point of view as well.
A special council meeting will be held this Monday to vote for the roles of Mayor and Deputy Mayor. It's understood that current Mayor Jemma Smith and Deputy Chris Holstein will recontest their positions, but it's believed that others are working the numbers in what looms as a major showdown in the chamber. There's been some suggestion that Liberal and Labor-backed councillors may actually unite in support of one of their own, possibly Lisa Matthews or Chris Burke, to break the hold of the current Mayor. Ross Barry spoke this week to Deputy Mayor Chris Holstein.
It's really hard to say at this stage. One thing I will say, I believe there'll be some changes, whether there's changes in both positions or one, I'm not too sure, but there will be changes, I reckon.
Can we put you on the spot and ask you if you're likely to contest the role as Mayor?
Look, I contested the first time, put my name forward. I thought I had something to offer. Been considering whether I'm wasting my time putting my name up again. I can definitely confirm I'd like to maintain the role as Deputy Mayor. It's an important 12 months and it's going to be an extremely difficult 12 months for the current council for a whole range of reasons. So if I can assist by bringing something to the table as Deputy Mayor or even Mayor, but I'll do so as a councillor no matter what, and I look forward to the challenges in the next 12 months. Look, if you're a numbers man, the Labor Party have 6 votes. They'll maintain that. The Libs have 4. But then you've got another 5 other councillors that may well have an impact and a bearing on that. You'd need to ask all of them, and then you'd need to ask them about 2 minutes before they vote to get a clear indication.
And the full interview with Councillor Holstein is now available on the Coast Community News website. The semi-finals of the FFA Cup are coming to the Central Coast. On Tuesday night, the Mariners defeated Hume City to advance to the semi-final, while they will meet Adelaide United at Central Coast Stadium on the 2nd of October. A goal by Abraham Marjok in the 92nd minute of the match saw the Central Coast Mariners prevail in a torrid match in which they were kept scoreless until deep into stoppage time.
Now we're good to go. Silvera near post, they appeal for hands, there's an almighty scramble. Marjok, I think, got the final touch. It's gone in, and the Mariners in the 2nd minute of stoppage time have more than likely sealed a spot in the last 4. It was an ugly, scruffy goal.
Hume City could face action from the FFA after supporters hurled bottles at the Mariners players at the end of the game. A major redevelopment of Wyong Public Hospital has been approved by the state government. The $150 million revamp is being undertaken in anticipation of increasing growth in demand for public health services in the Wyong region and to replace outdated facilities. The new 6-level building will include, among other things, increased maternity and intensive care services, paediatric services, new operating theatres and a new emergency department. The construction of the building is expected to start this month and to be completed in early 2022. The iconic Davistown Saltmarsh wetlands are set to be sold in the coming months. The prospective sale comes after years of controversy and attempts by council to return the 19 hectares of wetlands to public ownership. The site is zoned conservation, but is set to be earmarked for coastal open spaces designation. In other sports news, Umana's Jemma Smith has taken out the gold in women's under-23 canoe ocean racing world championships in France. Jemma came off a strong performance at the canoe sprint world championships to land the gold and finish 4th overall in a field that contained Olympians and world champions. Smith will be one of 20 women competing in the upcoming Coolangatta Gold Ironwoman series in October. The Terrigal Trojans have taken out the 2019 Central Coast Rugby Union Premier 1 Grand Final with an emphatic 76 points to 21 over Gosford at Woy Woy Oval. Gosford led 7-3 early in the match, but the Trojans then steamrolled the Red Devils for the rest of the match. Jaden Woolley, who crossed for 2 tries and kicked 10 goals from 12 attempts, was named man of the match. Separately, Central Coast Rugby has been advised it was unsuccessful in their bid to host a Waratahs match in 2020. The Waratahs will play matches at Newcastle, Wollongong and One Country Town, but not the Central Coast. And a reminder that after all the rain in recent days, the long-awaited Sports Fest has been cancelled this weekend. The event will not be rescheduled and instead the Central Coast Council will engage with individual sporting clubs on future activities to promote health and fitness. We closed this week with the unveiling of the winners of the 2019 Gosford Art Prize. Taking up the top prize this year was Patonga's Jocelyn Morn with her work Ken Ingrasai.
I go to a sketch group at Kincumber, which is open to anyone, and you just pay your $15 to draw the model. And there's about 16 or so people there. Ken is one of the fellow students there who also does some modelling, especially if the model doesn't turn up. And I asked Ken if he'd come over as a bought and paid for model to pose for me. So he came in on the day that appointed, sat on a stool and he said, "Right, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Just stay there." And an hour or so later, that was the result. If you're drawing the human figure, there's usually a movement in one direction that's complemented by a movement in another direction, and those two things work together throughout the whole body. There's a rhythm that goes through the whole thing. It's a bit like a dancer. They put the next foot out to balance, and drawing is like dancing. I'm drawing people all the time, quite often on the train. This is quite an old sketchbook, so you know, I would get through a book of this size every few months. Grisaille is a technique that both Rob and I have used for many years. It was a technique that goes right back to Rubens and Van Dyck back in the 1700s, and those artists used it as an underpainting for further work, often as layouts to tell the customer what they were going to do, like a quick maquette of the final job. And I just find it's a lovely technique in itself, because you can work with the one colour very quickly, transparently, and on a white surface by wiping back, so the lights that you see in the work are in fact the background coming through the ground. So it's a compulsive urge that I've had ever since I was a tiny little kid. Our whole family drew and painted, and I just thought it was a normal thing to do. I've never thought of doing anything else. I just love painting people. I would paint them all day. I'll paint you if you come back.
A selection of entries will be exhibited at Gosford Regional Gallery until November 3rd, with the public encouraged to vote for their favourite in the People's Choice Award. Thanks for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week for Friday 5 at 5.